Welcome to Look Around Florida, and Sean will be with you next.
Welcome to Look Around Florida. We have our great guest tonight. We have our Commander-in-Chief, Jason Boshers, on tonight. When you join the chat, let me know who you are, where you're from. Hey, Ryan, good to see you, buddy. Camp 1824 in the chat already, out the door. 1209 Division Chaplain already joining the chat. Hey, Kim, good to see you again.
Yes. I was happy to see Kim pop up on that introduction there. That was cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Sean will be up next.
Hey,
And
Carl. Hey, Linda and Roy.
Yeah, and as far as Ryan Rogers, I noticed he's on a bunch of these, and the camp he's with, the DeKalb Rifles, man, they are a camp. They are a great camp. I've gone and visited with them numerous times over the years, and I tell you, they are a good, strong camp.
Wow.
And I see Carl Jones in there. Fabrisham, Carl, how you doing, buddy? I need you to get me some of them brisket bones next time I see you.
Walter Cook and Keith Kruger, and Jeff O'Connor in the chat. Wow, welcome, guys.
Yeah.
Well, a couple announcements to make out. Guys, this comes directly from our division adjutant. Get your camp reports in and get them in now. If you need help, A, what he's talking about. 2, how to do it. Reach out to me or Rick Roberts. We'll help you out as best we can. There's our new brigade commander, Bobby Van Zandt, in the chat. Welcome, Bobby.
Mm-hmm.
And a message from our Graves Committee. Our Graves Committee's website is up. Exactly, Linda. Exactly. Well, Kim, let me put that out there. You're absolutely correct, sir. We have a lot of brothers and sisters out there that could use your prayers right now.
Yeah.
Especially Daryl Rattray, a good friend of mine. I won't talk about what's going on with him, but if you know him well enough, you know. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers, and there's various others in the division. Keep our members' thoughts.
Yes. I talked with Daryl the other day. I've become good friends with Daryl over the years. He's been so kind about inviting me down to come to Dixie County and to visit with them. And I tell you, him and I talked. He told me what was going on with him. And I tell you, I don't know that there's a finer guy than Daryl Rattray out there. Just as hardworking as you can get. And he's just a good guy to talk to and to be around. And I was sure headed to hear what he told me. And I can tell you right now, he's in my thoughts and prayers. And I'm actually going to be down to visit that camp on the 25th of this month.
Wow.
So, oh yeah, anything that I can do to help Daryl. Just one of the best guys out there. And we need to think about our sick that's out there. And we need to think about all of those that have been affected by all these storms that have come through. Yep. You know, we had all the flooding that was in Texas. We've had tornadoes in Tennessee and then Kentucky and in Oklahoma. So we need to think about and think about all of our members out there and what we can do to help them.
You're correct.
And we need to keep them in our prayers.
That reminds you. It also reminds me. I know National has this on their website. We also have this on the division website. You can go to it, donate to the disaster relief.
Yeah.
Because you never know. Here in Florida, where we live, all the way from North Florida down to where I live, down here in Southwest Florida, a hurricane can hit it. We're in that time of year again.
Yes. I come through there after the one went through. I'm going to call it up in up in the Panhandle kind of deal, and it hit Perry, Florida, and in that area. And I was through there after that happened, and I tell you, it was great to see our SCV members working with each other and helping each other. It really was a great thing.
Yeah, that's what we did after Ian. A lot of us in the southwest region, South Florida, bonded together. We went through cemeteries. Some of the guys on the East Coast drove all the way over here on the West Coast to bring water and whatever to help us with recovery efforts.
Yes. Yes. And, you know, it's, of course, we had the one come through, or a couple of tornadoes that come through here in Tennessee. And as far as the organization is concerned, we were blessed in the fact that nothing hit general headquarters. It passed to the east of there, and it did not get any damage there. As the crow flies, it was probably 4 to 5 miles away. And it went north of the Nathan Bedford Forest home. So the path that it took did not get to Nathan Bedford Forest home, and it did not touch Elm Springs and the National Confederate Museum. Although we had some members that even had damage, including our executive director, Adam Southern. You know, he had a tree to come down on his house, and he had the roof blown off, and, you know, he's having to work through that. He went, I don't know, like 3 days without any electricity. But, you know, he's like the rest of us Southerners. He'll just bear it out and do what he needs to. And we had several other members that had damage, and everybody's kind of bonded together. But one of the cemeteries that we work in, and it's very close to where Adam lives, it took some severe damage. We had tombstones knocked over. We had trees knocked down on tombstones. We've had stones busted. And just a few weeks before that, we had been out there and we'd put a Southern Cross of Honor down and had a memorial service. And it didn't get those, but where we had done one about 3 years ago, it come real close to there, and it didn't tear the stone up, but it knocked the trees down around it. So, you know, it's, you know, that's one of the things that we worry about, the damage to homes and to the loss of life. But there's a lot of cemetery stones that have been busted up by trees falling over during these storms. And I know y'all have experienced a lot of that down in Florida.
Yep. Yeah, because the cemetery just a little bit north of me, it's about a 30-minute drive. My camp's namesake is buried there.
Okay.
And yeah, when Ian went through, it really messed that cemetery up. Yeah, I didn't injure any of our Confederates soldiers that are buried there, but it did mess up other ones. And we went through, cleaned it up, and repaired what we could.
Yes. And I appreciate everybody bonding together for that. I would like to, I see where Lewis Tard has asked about the website being really slow today, and it was. Adam and I talked about it a few times. Of course, we were both trying to do stuff. I was at home working, and when it was slow here, I contacted him. It was slow there. It was taking 10 to 15 minutes for that initial screen to load. We've talked to the provider, trying to locate where the actual problem is, and not sure that we have it fully resolved yet, but we hope to have it fully resolved by the morning. In case you don't know, our internet service provider, the place that holds our, where our server banks is located in Canada. And we don't have it here in the U.S. because we have Confederate in our name. So we went to them, and they do an absolute fantastic job of keeping our servers up and running. But we don't know exactly what happened. We had some slow issues back a couple of months ago, and that was due to the fact that we had gotten so large in our website and our database and everything had gotten so large that we had to migrate to a new bank of servers. So we had to transfer all of that stuff over. and it was slow for several days. As far as I can tell, that wasn't the problem with this, but we haven't got it narrowed down to exactly what the problem is. I'm going to admit that I haven't looked at it now in probably 2 hours or more, and they might have already had it fixed or not. While we're talking here, I might try to pull it up just to see if it is working. But we are aware. We just didn't know. We were asking what the problem was, so we do know. But that there was a problem, but exactly where the glitch was, we don't know yet. But it seemed to be once you got it up, it went through fairly quick because I was doing some stuff on Salesforce, and Salesforce was clicking right along because I'm also the adjutant for my camp. And as you know, MRS statements are coming out and people are receiving them. And I received MRS statements. So I was on there trying to pay dues. I pay my dues through Salesforce as they come in. And that was what I was doing today. But once I got on Salesforce, it was moving fine. But getting that scv.org page loaded took way too long. We know it. We just hadn't figured out what the problem was yet. But maybe we can get it fixed. Hoping it's fixed by the morning because I got dues I need to pay.
Don't feel bad, sir. I do too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, as we're talking, I just try to bring up the website. Yeah, it's still the same.
Yeah, okay. I figured it might be. I figured they're going to have to reboot that whole bank of servers. And I don't know, because there's never a good time that we're down. Because people go to the website. We know this. They go to it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there's not a good time for us to do maintenance. You know, it's not like, okay, we can take it down to do maintenance. This might have been a maintenance upgrade that caused an issue or something. We just haven't got any good answers. And at this point in time, I really hate to even speculate, but I do know that it was an issue and we all know it. Adam knows it. Eric knows it. All of us have talked about it. So we just hope to get it fixed.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Jason, because you know, it is news time, so all of us that are adjutants for our camps are right now.
Yes, sir, you are correct. Because I got the mail as I've been on the road for a little over a week, so I got my mail delivered, and there was a stack of dues in there for me to pay, and that was what I was going to do today. And needless to say, I didn't quite get it done. I've had some other things come up as well. So I decided to go ahead and put that on the back burner and try to get some other stuff done I needed to. Have to write some letters. As you know, this is reunion time, and there's a lot of things that are going on right now. So I've been working on that. So I'm hoping it's going to be fixed because I really need to pay dues. And I hope you don't mind people talking about the Florida Strong. I hope you don't mind that I wore my Florida Strong shirt tonight.
I'm wearing a different one. Yeah, I picked this one up at the reunion this past weekend.
Okay. Well, I heard somebody mention your hat. Tell me about your hat.
Well, there was several different hats that our Division Commander Kevin Hart did. I bought 2 of them. The other one's somewhere around here, but I picked up this one.
Okay. A Heritage Warrior. There you go. Good hat.
Yeah. In the baggies, once you checked in, the hats were random. Everybody got something different.
Wow.
But
okay.
With some of the leftovers, you were able to buy them. And if there was a specific one that you wanted, you could go and purchase that one.
Okay.
That's what I did with this one.
Wow. That's the thing with Calvin. He's always thinking about that. Last 8-9 years that I have been involved with the Florida Division, Calvin's always been out there coming up with these ideas, such as the hats, the shirts, everything like that. And that's the great thing about Calvin. Not only does he have the idea, he's the one that takes care of it, or he gets the people motivated to get it taken care of. Yep. There's a lot of idea people out there that call and they'll have good ideas, or they'll send you an email with a good idea. and you talk to them about it, and they say they don't have time. So there's a lot of things that get languished and put on the back burner. But that's the thing about Calvin, is he has that idea and then he flat gets after it. So that's the one thing to admire about Calvin.
Yes, sir. You're right about that, because I came up with this idea. I ran it by him. He said, run with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's another thing about him, too. If a man's working, he's not going to keep him from it. He's going to encourage him and keep him going.
Yep. While we're on the subject of reunions, any news about our national reunion in Charleston this year?
Well,
or any updates?
Well, it is. There's a few updates that are out there. We haven't had very many in the last little bit. I'm not sure what our registration total is up to. As you know, a lot of our members, they've gone, when it first come up, they went and they reserved the hotel rooms. So hotel rooms got booked out very quickly. And then the hotel has thrown the host camp a curveball, and they've decided to start doing construction now in January. Excuse me, not January, June. You have to excuse me. June. And they've just started, they took 85 rooms away from him. So right now they are scrambling to see what can be salvaged and see what can happen with that. But it's typical, and our members do this. They did it with the Tennessee Division reunions over the years, and they've done it with national reunions over the years. They wait until the last month before they ever send their registration in. Even though they booked the hotel room, they won't send their registration in. So the last, at one time on Commander's Comments, I gave a total on how many registrations we had, and that was actually low. It was low from what we were expecting to have in Charleston, but it's about average for what come in at this time. So we're hoping people are going to be registering and planning on coming to Charleston. Now we know the rooms. Now, as far as the events that have been booked, a lot of them are booked up. They're booked out. They're sold out. But if these people that have, if they don't show up or any of that, then you see these tickets will go up for sale. And I've already talked to Rick Little about that. So even if somebody doesn't show, you always check and see if you can pick up a ticket somewhere. But it's they have got so much planned. If you look at that list on what they have, and Charleston's Charleston, just look at all of the history that is there. For a long time, I had been going to reunions for years. I had a tendency to want to strike out on my own. I would go to the business session on Thursday, but I wouldn't go do any of the tours. I would want to strike out and go see what I wanted to see. And then gradually I started doing the tours, and I got where I really liked them because you would get to see things that you don't normally get to see. And they would, and I'm actually trying, and I'll have more on this on Thursday night because Commander's Comments is Thursday night. And I'll have more updates on this. But the on market, well, it's actually on the back of the UDC magazine, and you can subscribe to the UDC magazine and get the UDC magazine. And I subscribe to it, and I get the UDC magazine. And this museum at Market Hall, which is all of us have been on Market Street, and you've seen this. The UDC, they've ran this since like 1899. So they have been collecting all of this. They're going to be celebrating an anniversary, and I believe they're going to allow, if you are an SCV member, for you to be able to come into a Market Hall for free. Wow. on a particular day. So you can look for updates on that more in the future. And I want to thank the UDC for doing that. The UDC has just been fantastic.
That's good to know.
Yes. Wow. And I've worked with the UDC a lot, and I tell you, my love and appreciation for those ladies knows no bounds. I was with them this past weekend I got a tour of their building, the one that in Richmond, I got firebombed during the Summer of Love, the summer of 2020.
Yeah.
That got burned out. And the work they have done on that building is absolutely amazing from where it was to where it is now. And it's sad that they lost a lot of the things that they did due to the fire, like Jackson's flag. It was nothing left of it, not even fibers. I think they told me that library room got all the way up to 1,200 degrees, and it just burned out everything. And it was the Molotov cocktails that were thrown in. But they have done so much to rebuild that. And there's countless documents that the UDC has collected over the years that were lost in that fire. And, but what the ladies have done, they've got so much spunk and so much spirit and so much fight in them. They were just like their ancestors of the Ladies Memorial Associations who started right out before the war was ever over, collecting all of these artifacts, just because they wanted the sacrifices that their families made to be remembered. And they started collecting this, and they started promoting. And then, when the South started getting its feet back under it after Reconstruction, what was the first thing they do? They start putting up memorials all over the Southland. And you can't go anywhere within Southland and not see a memorial that the United Daughters of the Confederacy has put up. And they still have that fight and that spirit in them. And it was wonderful to be with them. So I'm going to encourage anybody who can to come to Charleston and go see Market Hall and support everything that the ladies have done, and come and support our organization. As you know, this is an election year, and you'll be electing new Army officers, Army councilmen, Army commanders, and you'll elect a new Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief and a Commander-in-Chief. And I guess I have finally started my countdown because I've been trying to get things done before I go out of office. And you schedule things, and it's about 45 days. Then, we'll be in Charleston and you'll be electing new officers. So if you haven't got your registration in, I would get the registration in as quick as you can.
With your years of being Commander-in-Chief, what are some kind of the highs?
Say that again. I lost you. It broke up on me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What kind of as you being the Commander-in-Chief, what were some of your high points?
Well, the one that initially comes to mind is August 23rd of 2023. That was a Wednesday, and that's when I had, and I worked with Donnie Kennedy and Ron Kennedy and Adam Southern, and we invited the heads of our like organizations to meet at Elm Springs and talk about it. And we had the Military Order of Stars and Bars, we had Morgan's Men, we had the United Daughters of the Confederacy, and we had Children of the Confederacy. All in the Sons of Confederate Veterans, all sitting in one room, talking about everything that we face. And, I don't know if we have ever had all of the organizations sitting in one room just to discuss our organizations and the issues that we all share and the successes that we have all had. And there were some wonderful relationships that come out of it. If you've read your Confederate Veterans since then, you will know that the President General of the Children of the Confederacy, Caroline Tucker, has been writing articles that go in and they have been in the Confederate Veteran. And the Children of the Confederacy, as you know, they are the feeding path to come into the United Daughters of the Confederacy and the Sons of Confederate Veterans. And with Morgan's Men being there, Children of the Confederacy. And I even spoke with Jenny Wadowski, who is the President General of the UDC. She was there with several other ladies on the national level and a couple of the ladies from the Tennessee division level. And, Jenny Wadowski wrote an article that was in the Confederate Veteran. And, this is to have all of our organizations working together, because we had some incidents come up here in Tennessee in which we were, we know about the Forest bus that they took out of the Capitol in Tennessee. And, there was talk about doing away with our license plates, and there was, talk about some other things. So we went and we visited with politicians to, talk about our organization. And what I quickly realized was, and I said this last year at the national reunion, and I realized from things people said, it was misinterpreted what I meant, because I said that from that, I learned that nobody needed to be on an island by themselves. And what I meant by that was, it was just the Sons of Confederate Veterans standing there. We needed these other organizations to be standing with us. Mm-hmm. And we need to stand with them, because, if you're talking to one group, what's the impact? But if you're talking to 5 different groups, what's the impact? And, so I kind of felt like, even though there was a good group of us guys there, it was plenty of us from the Tennessee division, but we were just one group. And from that sense, it kind of felt like we were on an island by ourselves. And when I left that, and that was nearly 2 years ago, I thought, well, the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get these other organizations working together. And I reached out, and everybody has been receptive, and everybody has been talking. Everybody has been working on this. And, this is, I guess, if there was one highlight that I had to pick, it would be the success of all of us working together after that event on August 23rd of 2023. If I had to pick one thing that was the benefit of the organization, that would be the one thing. Yes, sir.
So we got a question that came in for you, sir.
What would be your advice, recommendation to the incoming CIC? Okay. First of all, there's always going to be some leftover issues, because it's 1 2-year term. And there's always going to be leftover issues from the administration before you. You can't help it. It's just the nature of the business. You're not going to get everything wrapped up, and it's going to start with a clean slate. So I had my ideas on what I wanted to accomplish. And that was one of them, and I did get that accomplished. When there's been so much talk about communication, and that is one thing that's going to have to be worked on from now on. There is never a time that you are not going to be working on communication, because you have different people coming in and out of offices. And even though you have one particular path, let's say that I'm very comfortable with you and you're very comfortable with me, and we can talk with each other. But as soon as I'm out of office or you're out of office, that communication breakdown happens. So it is going to be, those are the things that you're going to have to deal with, because I've already been talking to, right now, Donnie Kennedy is running unopposed. And if he gets up in the chair, I've already been sending him the things that I'm already working on that I know is going to be left over for his administration. And then, you have to stay focused on what you really want to do, because one of the things you're going to be faced with is distractions. You will have people that will, inside our organization and outside of our organization, that will be distracting you, because, there's such a thing called social media, and people air their differences on social media instead of going to somebody. And, I hear about them. People take screenshots and send them to me. So there's going to be things that you're going to have to, every morning I wake up and I check my email and I check my Facebook Messenger to see what I'm faced with that day. So if it would be one piece of advice, that would be to focus on what you really want to do and realize what is just noise and what we really have to work on. What is important, not just to what you want to do, but what's important to the organization. Because everybody has pet projects. Let's just say that you're really into cleaning tombstones. Well, there's a lot of people in our organization, they still clean tombstones and they admire that, but they're interested in getting the Forest Equestrian statue plaza put back up, or they're interested in what's going on with the museum. So you have to think about everything in a bigger picture, not just a smaller picture. So as far as giving any advice, I'm probably the last person to give advice on anything because I have made my fair share of mistakes and then some. But what I have learned is that there's a lot of noise out there, and you have to learn what is noise and what is important.
All right, we got a couple more questions that came in for you.
Yes. What is the stacks in the bricks and the pavers memorial walkway? You know, that has been on everybody's conversations a lot, and I have been hearing about that a lot lately. As you know, that was a project that was put a little bit on the back burner because we didn't know. We were planning on starting this right around the time that the Equestrian Plaza was put back because we were going to put the bricks around that. But as you know, we don't know when that's going to happen. So we talked about it at the last national reunion, and we were putting them behind, decided to start it in the Jeff Davis Memorial Garden. We've kind of worked on a rendering on what we're going to be doing with that. The issues that we have faced with that is one set of bricks that we had show up where they were etched in and engraved. After they were out for a little bit, they started flaking around where they had been engraved. And they took care of it. They come and got them, didn't charge us for anything because sent them pictures and said, this is what's happening. And turns out there was not enough clay in the bricks for them to hold up. So we've had to search around and find another supplier. And what we did was we have found a local one. And we have got a set of bricks and pavers they loaned to us or gave to us to go test to see how the engraving was going to go. And right now we have those at General Headquarters. I was talking to the man. I've got my numbers because I have talked to him very recently about this. We have to order them in what is called a cube. And that is 470 bricks in a cube. So the way that we would have to order these is 470. Now I didn't finish what I was saying earlier. We have our local supplier, and we also found a place in Columbia that would engrave them for us. Wow. So we would save shipping because before I was going to Franklin and into Nashville to look at them. And now I can just do it there in Columbia. So it's going to be a cube of 470 bricks, which would be the 4x8 bricks and another 470 of the 8x8 pavers. The curveball that has been thrown to us now is there's not a lot of places making the 8x8 pavers because they can't keep up with the 4x8 brick quota now. So we have some that we've already gotten and they're on the way. Then they'll be taken to the engravers. Right now, we're trying to get enough bricks, enough 8x8 pavers to get that order completed as well. Now, that means that we're going to be sitting on them because right now, we don't have 950 orders, because we have bricks and pavers. So we're going to have extra. And what we want to do is keep that supply there at HQ. So when we get a few, they come in, we can go and have them engraved and bring them back. That way we don't have to deal with shipping and all of that. I can pick them up there in Columbia, take them to the engraver, and then pick them up from the engraver and go and put them down. The one thing that I want to have out, and I'm shooting for this week, is to get a full rendering of what that whole plaza is going to look like. Now, if you have been to the Jeff Davis Memorial Garden, you know that when you are there and you're facing Jeff, you're looking at him, you're facing the president. If you look to your left, we got some benches, but then you've got nothing all the way that goes all the way over to where the trailer park is. And we don't want to do a pathway to nothing. So what we're going to start with initially is a big loop. And we've already had a couple of people that have stepped up to ask about buying benches to go in there. And those benches are on order. And I have talked to the gentleman that is doing that for us, and he's in Lebanon, Tennessee. And he has delivered a couple of headstones. So, and when he delivered the headstones that we ordered, I talked to him about when are the benches going to be here. And he said that they are there and he's getting them engraved now. So we're going to have to start benches as we start coming in real soon. The problem that we're having is with the supply. He says that, and I'm going to mention the bench guy. He went from getting a full 18-wheeler a week to getting a half a load every 2 weeks. And when I talked with him the other day, it hasn't picked up much. Now the benches are coming out of Georgia. It's the product down in Georgia. We're not ordering from overseas. We could get the overseas stuff quicker, but we're supplying everything we can local. I want to keep everything we can local. Now the status of the bricks and pavers is we might be running slow on 8x8 pavers till we find another supplier on those. The 4x8 bricks, those are coming in. They'll be going to the engraver. I'm wanting to get some of these in the ground so I can take pictures of it and put it out there on social media and take it to National Reunion and get this project rolling. It has languished long enough. And one of the things to begin with was the Forest Equestrian statue, putting that whole plaza up. And since then, it has just been a supply issue. And when he told me recently that it's we're not going to be able to order any more of those 8x8 pavers, well, we might have some of them that are going to look a little different, because when we swap suppliers, the brick's not going to be exactly the same. We have a rumbled cocoa that we've ordered. And I've tried to swap to another one that they had, which is a rumble rose, which is a little bit lighter brick, and the lettering stands out better on it. But he can't get those in 8x8 pavers anymore, either one of those in 8x8 pavers. So we're trying to get a full supply of those. So that's where that stands, is us getting the supply in. And it's the same thing with the benches. I hope I've answered the question because it has been going on way too long. There's people that ordered these 2 and 3 years ago, and we need to go ahead and start putting these down.
So on the website, under forms and documents, you have the brick pavers.
Yes.
Or that's still good to go, right?
Yes.
Camps and individuals.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oddly enough, there hasn't been much of an adjustment on price. And according to the sales rep and I even talked to him today, when I talked with him, there's been so much building going on that he said there's even a shortage of 4x8, just regular bricks. He said there's even a shortage of those. Wow. And the bricks that we're wanting, well, they're a little special because they have to have more of a clay content. So they will be able to hold up to the engraving. If not, if you don't have enough clay in there, they'll start to flake. And what will eventually happen is, and this is what they told me, was water will get in there and the brick will eventually bust. It will end up becoming what they call a pumpkin brick, which means it's going to lose its hardness, it's going to get moisture, and it'll pop. So right now it's still dealing with supplies, but it is moving, and we're trying to get this moving, and we're trying to get it done. But we hope this is going to be an ongoing project, and because we're working on the same thing with the 21st Century Confederate Heroes. So not only we're going to be doing that brick and paver, there's also a brick and paver that you can use for the 21st Century Confederate Heroes. So we're having to get that as well. And so we don't really know. I don't ever see this project really ending. So we're probably in time, we're probably going to have different looking bricks in different places. But we're still going to organize it because people have given instructions on where they would like for theirs to be placed. We had one division that sent in theirs, and they wanted all of those placed in one location. And so we're going to put all of those together. So we're still going to comply with everybody's wishes on what they wanted. So now the supplier that, excuse me, not the supplier, but the engraver, before the guy who was doing the engraving, if you sent the application in, I just made a copy of it and I emailed it to him. Now this guy wants them in an Excel spreadsheet. So I've been typing all of these up in an Excel spreadsheet so he can just do copy and paste on his CNC machine. And it takes him about an hour to do one of the pavers. That's the big 8x8. It takes it about an hour to happen.
Wow. We got a question coming in from Carl Jones. I know.
Yes. And, you know, I'll just be honest. Okay. I get calls from members. Now, I'm not talking about anything that would be on a national level or anything like that. They just have a problem on their camp level. And, you know, I can remember over the years, I'm going to say a good 30% of the phone calls that I get are from members, and they're having a problem within their camp that they want me to fix. And I can't. I mean, that's not my job. He needs to go to the camp commander. And when you talk to him, he doesn't like the camp commander. You know, he wanted his buddy to get the job. Well, this camp commander, other guy got the job, and he doesn't want to work with him. That's where you need to go to your brigade commander. Well, he doesn't know who his brigade commander is because he's never seen his brigade commander. Wow. And I said, well, have you talked to the division commander? And this person, you know, these people sometimes go to division events and talk to them. But for some reason, they just call straight to it. You know, they'll just call me about it. And, you know, would adherence to the chain of command make communication easier? Yes. Those 30% of the calls that I get can be solved on the local level without ever having to call me or call Adam. I know Adam gets those calls too, because I have been with Adam when he got them. And if people would call, and then, you know, if you're a camp member, you have a camp adjutant, first lieutenant, a camp second lieutenant. You have all of these different levels at the camp level that you can talk to. And then you go up to the brigade, and there's a lot of divisions that have a brigade commander, and the brigade commander will have either a lieutenant brigade commander or he'll have a brigade adjutant. And then you have a division commander, and there's all of those levels at the division level. And those 30% that I get, they can all be handled at that level without having to do anything other than talk at that level. And then the next would be to contact your Army councilman and your Army commander. But they don't. They will just go ahead and call me. And there's very little that I could do. Would it make communication easier? Yes, it absolutely would. It would give, we need brigade commanders that are going to be active and out there working, because when we pass information, either information coming up or information going down, you know, however it needs to go, because you need to remember we're a grassroots organization. The entire strength of this organization is with the members at the camp level. That's what makes it. When we have 26,000, 27,000 members, that's where the strength of this organization is. So, all of it can be handled. All of that could have been handled at that level. But for some reason, they just, okay, I see you in the magazine. I found your email address, and they email me. Would it make communication easier? Yes. Would it make it easier on Adam? Because Adam is running the organization day to day. He's having to deal with people coming into the museum. He's having to deal with personnel. He's having to deal with membership. He's wearing a lot of hats. And, I know he gets calls and emails of things that can just be happening on the local level. Earlier, because when I told you earlier about the bricks and pavers, I'll go ahead and tell this because I told somebody earlier. When I'm going to say probably about a year ago, it started when an individual contacted me, and he had ordered a brick, and he ordered several of them actually, and he was wanting to know the status of them. And I told him where we were, and I asked him if it was something that he would be willing to take on, was to be able to take on the brick paver project, because in the commander-in-chief position, it is hard for me to get the time dedicated to doing what I need to do with that. Now, after July, I will have more time to dedicate to that. But when you're on the road every weekend and going and visiting camps, you don't have the opportunities or the time to dedicate to that. And I asked him, would he be willing to take that project on? And he said, no, he didn't have time. And I'm guessing about 2 or 3 times a month, he calls me wanting to know the status of his bricks. And I tell him what I've told you, and he doesn't understand why we're having the supply issues and well, I'm not a brick manufacturer. I'm not a brick rep, and I'm not an engraver. So I'm having to go with what they tell me. So have we swapped suppliers? Yes, we have swapped suppliers numerous times, trying to get the bricks that we need. But since we found somebody local, this sales rep has offering to go to other brick manufacturers for us instead of us having to go to them, because he's a sales rep for multiple brick companies. So I'm hoping that's going to solve our issue. But to answer Carl's question, and I hope I answered Carl's question, if you'll follow the chain of command, you will be able to get a better answer quicker. Because, this guy and he's probably done this. I probably look at my phone. I bet you he's called me 60 times over the past year wanting to know the status of his brick.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's just a camp member. But he got my information because I went and I spoke at the camp. And I have no problem with that. But I tell him I don't know. I'm still waiting to hear back from him. And I'll get a call from him 2 weeks later. Where's my brick in yet? No. I hope I answered the question.
I think he did. And sometimes patience is a virtue.
Mm-hmm.
Carl, you're absolutely correct.
Oh, yes. There's 2 critical positions in this organization. Brigade commander is one, camp adjutant is another. Period. If you have a good camp adjutant, we know how critical that is at the national level when dues time and all of that come in. And, you were talking earlier about getting the reports in. Yeah. That is so critical to get your reports in. And, so that's the history of your camp, because what you're doing is you're actually documenting your camp, how many members, what all you've been doing, so that's a documentation. That's a document of what your camp's doing. If you don't send that in, it doesn't look like your camp's been doing anything. So it is important for us to do that. So an adjutant is critical. And we know how critical it is as soon as the adjutant goes missing or the adjutant isn't doing what it's supposed to. And we have camp members that's calling general headquarters saying, I didn't get my Confederate Veteran magazine. And we get that call often. I get the call. I've already gotten calls about, I remember when the one come out in May, we got it May, and it's May the 2nd. I'm getting a phone call. Where's my Confederate veteran? And at that time I didn't even have mine yet. So, but because it goes through the regular mail, even though that they've gone to the printer, and this one for the upcoming issue has already been to the printer. When it gets printed, it'll go ahead and go out. So, it's one of these automated deals. It's printed and it goes mailing, but then it's left up to the Postal Service. And that could be, how the Postal Service delivers, especially over the last couple of years. Yeah. Since 2020, we know that you might get it today. If you don't have but just one piece of mail, they might hold it till they have several pieces of mail for you and deliver it all at one time. So, that is part of the process as well. But the adjutant, getting all of that information in there, because if they're not keeping updated on the addresses, when the MRS statement comes out, if that address isn't correct, it gets kicked back. If they don't pay the dues, then if you don't pay your dues on time, or you pay the adjutant, but the adjutant don't get your dues in the national on time, then you're in arrears. And, so we know that how important the adjutant is. Now, the brigade commander is critical just for the flow of communication. And just checking on the counts and making sure the counts are, they're having meetings and they're being conducted in a good manner. As I've gone to a lot of camp meetings over the years, and I have been to some wonderful camp meetings, and I have been to some that, and you realize that I realized very quickly that it goes back to being something that somebody wants. You have to be something that somebody wants for somebody to want you. You have to have a good camp for the camp members to come. And, one of the things that the brigade commander can do is he can go to these camp meetings and encourage them, tell them how they can have good camp meetings, and, how to bring speakers in, and, just make sure that they're actually meeting. And if there is something that has come down from Calvin, okay, well, I'm not picking on Calvin, by any means, but, if Calvin has said something, or Rick Roberts has said something, and that brigade commander needs to ensure that it has gotten out to all of the camp officers. And you don't just send it to the camp commander, you send it to the camp commander, the camp adjutant, the first lieutenant, and the second lieutenant. So you make sure that all of them have it in case there's a gap in there, because sometimes the camp commander might not be checking his email, because I have communicated with camp commanders and not hear back from them for a week. And they say, well, I only check my email once a week. I only check on it on the weekends or whatever. So there's all of these gaps in communication. And, that's the one thing the brigade commander can do, is he can go and visit that camp. And when the camp has elections, he can plug all of those things in, and he can stay in communication. So brigade commanders are the critical piece of the getting communication up and down the chain. And camp adjutants are critical to keep the camps running. And this is a public service announcement. You have to do your 990. Every camp has to do a 990. Doesn't matter how much money you brought in, how little, whatever. You still have to do your 990. So that's left up to the camp adjutant in most cases. And if the camp adjutant doesn't know that, I was just visiting with Cindy White, who is the office manager, and I was talking with her. It's now been a couple of weeks ago, and she had spent the better part of 2 to 3 weeks going through that 990 report to see who has done their 990 and who hadn't. And you have to do the 990. So that's a public service announcement, and keep spreading that. Each camp has to do it, because I've had them come back and say, well, we didn't do anything and we didn't raise any money. And I don't care. You still have to file your 990. I hope I answered the questions.
Well, You helped me. You helped me and Rick Roberts get the word out on the camp reports.
Yes, you have to do it because remember with the camp reports, if you come to the national reunion, we'll have a book of reports. I had to submit mine, a report for that. All of us officers have to, and then every one of them's going to come from the brigade. Calvin, as your excuse me, not the brigade, division. Calvin had to submit one for the division. So, all of this is us documenting our history. If you think about it, well, this is something that I have to do because they're making me do it or wanting me to do it. Well, think of it as documenting the history of your camp. Don't think about it as a work or a task that you have to do. Think of it as I'm documenting my camp. I'm documenting what my camp is doing. And then when Calvin does his, he's going to be reporting on what the camps have done. So he's taking their stuff and he's putting it out there, and then he's talking about what the division is accomplishing. So you're documenting your history is what you're doing, and that's not only does it help us on the national level, keeping all this information together. It also helps in case somebody comes back. I mean, how many times have you wanted to try to find something from when the UCV started? Or how many times have you wanted to say something, from, Dr. McCain brought us back to life, really, in the 1950s? What would it have been like to have some of these full reports of those, to know what those guys were dealing with in the 1950s and 60s, and what they went through the sesquicentennial? Because people come looking for that. So that's how I look at it, is I'm documenting the history.
Well, you did when you spoke of the UCV, went down to Key West. Anybody that knows me knows if it's a historical cemetery, I'm going to go through it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I found a lot of UCV markers. Some had numbers on them and some didn't. Yeah. And I posted pictures. I know, sir, you, Carl, and multiple people throughout the Confederation did make comments on those pictures.
Oh, yeah. And okay, I'll go ahead and admit it. I'm a cemetery nerd myself.
That's all right.
When I went to Virginia, I guess I went to some battlefields, but I went to some cemeteries. And I was looking up Revolutionary War. I was looking at our Confederate heroes, forefathers. Yeah. And went to Patrick Henry's place and visited Patrick Henry's grave, which was to be standing there at Patrick Henry's grave was, humbling to say the least. And it's what we do. And I admit I'm a cemetery nerd myself. I like all of that, but we need to remember we're their voice. They can't speak for themselves anymore. It is left up to us to speak for them. And that is one of the purposes of CERT and all of these other things that we do. And that is to say their names and put their names out there. Yeah. Because this is not about us. This is about them. If it wasn't what happened these generations 160 years ago, I wouldn't know you, Sean. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Everybody I have talked to over the last 10 years has been an SCV member. All of my friends are SCV members. If I was to need somebody for something, I know who I'd call, and it'd be an SCV member. Yeah. It is, to me, this has been my brotherhood. And to go and visit with people and visit with the camps and get that insight from them and to learn from them. Everywhere I go, I learn something. Mm-hmm. And, I never stop learning. It's okay. When does a fish die? When it stops swimming. Yep. So, keep swimming and keep learning and grow our organization. And, and never forget this one thing. Once you are a member of this organization and you stay in this organization, you always represent this organization, because this is not about you. This isn't about me. This isn't about what I'm accomplishing and what I'm doing. This is about what our ancestors did and what they accomplished and following the charge that they gave us. Because when I come into this organization, I was sworn in. And I learned a long time ago, a man should not take very many oaths. The more oaths a man takes, the more likely he is to break one of those. So when I was sworn into this organization, I took an oath to uphold the charge. And that's what I try my best to do.
Yep.
And just like everybody else, I'm a human being and I make mistakes. And sometimes I drop the ball. Sometimes I muff a punt, but I'm a human being. And I realize when I've made a mistake and I fix it and I move on. I haven't been looking at the comments. Have I addressed anything that anybody's asked?
I haven't seen any questions. I mean, we're getting a lot of feedback, a lot of positive feedback, though.
Okay. And because if anybody has any questions, now's a great time to ask them, because you're getting information firsthand. If you have anything to ask me, you don't get there is no filter here. Because as I'm saying it, it's coming out. So it's not like it's an email where I type out a line and go, no, I don't need to say that, and back up and redo it,
Wow. I'm proud to say I got my first Arkansas camp in the chat. Wow. Welcome, Brian.
All right. Oh, Brian Wells from the J.L. Shelby camp.
Yeah.
Harrison, Arkansas. I'm actually going to be in Arkansas the 4th Saturday in this month, because there was a mega flag that they were working to get up that was outside Hot Springs on the interstate there, and they were trying to get it up before a reunion last year. And they, just like everybody else, they have had a lot of delays. They had problems getting deeds and getting the culvert put in so they could get back onto the property. And they do have it up. And I think they're going to raise the flag on the 4th Saturday in June. So I want to be there for that. I think that's a good thing.
Take pictures, sir.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we just had division reunion. It was a great time.
Yep.
Hanging out with a lot of you, especially our soiree Friday night. Saturday night, a lot of us in South Florida still got together.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing y'all at National Reunion. And if y'all have a soiree, maybe I can get an invitation to attend it. So.
Well, it'd probably be the same one like we did in Hot Springs.
Yes. And I see what Carl put on there, and that is an inside joke. I hope to meet you one day. I'll let Carl tell that story. I won't tell it. I'll let Carl tell it. Actually, Carl's a lot better at telling stories than I am, so I'm going to let Carl tell it. He will do it good justice.
I didn't know if that was for me or you.
Yes. I'll just let Carl tell it. He's
all right.
He's good at that. But next time you talk to him, or if you have him on here, get him to bring it up. So.
Not a problem, sir. Yeah, because at the division reunion, quite a bit of you gave me in this podcast a lot of good compliments that all of our brothers and sisters were able to hear. I am working on 2 speakers that will be coming up. One is Thomas Jesse. As you know, he did one of the videos for the faces of the SCV. He loves portraying Robert E. Lee. So we're going to get him on. We just talked about this Saturday at the reunion about him coming on and talk about Robert E. Lee in the state of Florida. Not too many people know that he was here in Florida.
I don't know the story, so I'm gonna have to get on and listen to that. I like Thomas Jesse. He does a great Lee. He really does.
He does. And he knows the history of Lee real well too.
Oh yes, sure does. And since you touched on the this podcast, I need to let you know just how critical these things are. And I'm going to tell you why. Yesterday, about midday yesterday, I got an email, and it was from somebody that was wanting to do an interview. And they were wanting to do one last night. And I had something else going on that I was already booked to do, so I was not able to do it. So I sent it out to Donnie Kennedy, Ron Kennedy, and Ed Phillips and see if any of them wanted to do it. And of course, Donnie Kennedy did. He got on there and he did the interview. Of course, there were storms that were going through Louisiana, and I think he had some connection issues and all of that. And he was filling me in filling us in through an email on how that conversation went. And of course, it was him on there, and there were two others on there, and they were contradicting what he was saying. So it was one of those things. He come on, and it was not a pro-Southern question, or even, I'm not even going to say pro-Southern. It wasn't even a fair deal. It wasn't like, let's go ahead and let's ask a question and let's let it be answered. It was asking questions with intent. And then it was almost like a sabotage is what I call those. It was a setup. And when he was emailing this to me this morning, and we were going back and forth, we are going to level the playing, because there is no such thing as a level playing field on what we're facing. There is no level playing field. We're going to have to create our own media empire, plain and simple. We're going to have to create our own platform to get all of this information out, because we're not going to get a fair shake in the general public. So when SCV chat, and then look around, and then look around Florida, we have had all of these programs that have come out from this. We need daily ones. We need stuff that is going to be out there every day. We need our own, because we have been saying that we need to be, I've been saying it, we need to be stop number one for all things Confederate. Well, they're not going to come to us to do that, at least not at this point in time. So we're going to have to create our own media empire to get every bit of this out. I'm not even sure, because there's been talk about, well, you need a public relations company, and a public relations company can help you get all of it out there. I don't know if anybody can answer a question any better than the Kennedy twins could, or Ed Phillips, or one of these attorneys. I mean, they know how to answer the questions, and they're never going to get that on a level playing field, and they're never going to get us a chance to be the first stop for all things Confederate. So we're going to have our own media empire. We've got to. There is no way around it. This is one of these things that your show is critical. SCV chat is critical. All of these podcasts that we're doing and getting this information out there, that's the only way that we're ever going to take back the narrative, is to build our own empire. And we're not going to take back the narrative. We're going to create the narrative, because they have butchered our history so bad. They don't even know what the truth is anymore. So we're going to have to get the gospel of the Southland out there for everybody. Mm-hmm. And that is the purpose of your show. And I want to thank you for doing the show, because you are doing so much to get the word of the Southern people out there. And I want you to know how important that is. And I want you to know that I support it. And all we need now is we need more shows like this just to get the information out. We need Thomas Jesse speaking once a week somewhere on one of these shows. We have to, because that is the only way that we're going to do it. We're never going to get a fair shake. We have to create our own opportunities. Your show is important. I'm glad SCV Chat got started. And I don't take any credit for that, because Connor and Harrison brought that to me at the 2020 National Reunion in Jacksonville, was where they brought that. And yeah, we got to do this. And it has become more and more obvious, having to deal with everything that we have to deal with, that we have to create our own media empire. There's no way around it. Plain and simple. That's my gospel.
And hopefully we can get other divisions on board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what's coming out of the South Carolina division, and so forth and so on.
Yes. If we were to have, 13 different shows out there, hallelujah. Let's just get the good, correct information out there in front of everybody's eyes. We're going to have to tell everybody the gospel of the Southland. Yep. And it's that plain and simple. And I'm going to go ahead, since I mentioned the gospel, I'm going to go ahead and drop some news on everybody. September 14th. They used to have the Great Revival in the Southern Armies Conference. And they had that all the way up. I know they had one in 2019. I'm not sure they had one in 2020. And there was a Mr. Sprinkle that was kind of the catalyst behind all of it. And you had Ron Rumberg, Mark Evans, all of these pastors and parsons and chaplains that were doing this conference. It's coming back. And we're hosting the first one on September the 14th. And we're hosting it at Historic Elm Springs. Wow. And there's going to be an ad for it in the upcoming Confederate Veteran magazine. There's already, as soon as I get the okay on the registration form, the registration form will be out there for people to be able to register it. But it is so important to bring back this chaplains conference. And it originally started as the Great Revival in the Southern Armies conference. And that's what we're bringing back. So you're going to get some new, you got the first information was here on Look Around Florida.
Man, that's awesome.
Yes. And I just thought I would drop that since I mentioned the gospel. Because that was brought to me. It's been talked to since I've been commander. It's been brought up a couple of times. And then I just finally had two guys just come up to me and say, look, we need to hurry up and do this because we're missing opportunities. And if any of you have ever read my articles, I talked about missed opportunities. And I realized that this was a missed opportunity. And I'm trying my best to plug the hole on this. So September 14th, put it on your calendars. We're going to have it.
Wow. You heard it first, guys.
The news was broke on Look Around Florida.
Yeah. That Tumblr looks familiar.
Yes. Fella you might have heard of by the name of Victor Smith created this for me. And it was when I was lieutenant commander. So I'm just sitting here and enjoying it.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, man, that's been a great episode. I mean, we got some breaking news. Hey, I gotta give GCB and Harris,
Well, you got to give them a little grief. They deserve
exactly.
it. They deserve it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the polite word.
They need some grief. Yes.
At least you didn't get bum rushed with a T-Rex tonight.
Well, the night's still young.
So in other words, you're going to be checking your emails later, huh?
Yes.
Well, man, you when we have a great speaker, look at the time, man. Time flew by when we were having fun.
Wow. We've already been on an hour and 15 minutes.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, we have our commander-in-chief. Does anybody have any questions? Because when we go to national reunion, he's going to be swamped. He may not have a chance. This would be the perfect time, or commander's comments, ask him questions.
Yeah. Well, Sean, thank you for having me on. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It is important for us to support these shows and, just to get all the information out there. And, these are our brothers that are putting the effort into doing this. I mean, Sean, I'm sure you had to work today. You had to come home from work. An hour before the show started, I contacted you and said, I'll see you in an hour. And you said you were putting stuff together. Yeah. So there's an effort that goes into doing this. It doesn't, as I've gotten very fond of saying, stuff like this just doesn't fall out of the sky. There's people that's doing stuff to make this happen. And we need to support this show. We need to support SCV Chat, Look Around the Confederation, Sunday Night History Chat with Michael Hardy, which is a very good show. And we have David Pope with the Friends of Douglas Southall Freeman on Friday night. So, we just need a dozen more of these shows. And I think I saw Carl say something about we could be the new CNN, Confederate News Network. And, we could easily do this. And I believe in what is happening here because this is the only way it's going to get out. We're never going to be invited into a public forum that we're not going to be set up for an execution. Right. So what we need to do is we need to do these shows and promote these shows and get our story out there.
Exactly, sir.
And our story, yes, sir. And our story is the Southern story. Yep. And like Carl has said, I hope Carl's still on here. And like Carl has said, our history did not begin in 1860 and 1861. It started in 1607. And that is how we need to do it. When everybody come over here in 1607, because America would not exist without Southerners.
Well, Florida history would not started before that, back in the 1500s.
Okay.
Well, you can up St. Augustine.
Yes, sir. So our history, as you just heard, is actually older than that. Yeah. So this is the information that we have to get out there. So, and thank you for doing the show, and thank you for inviting me on. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Not a problem, sir. It's a perfect time where our members from the Florida Division, SCV, and OCR can get a chance to hear from you and have a chat.
Yeah.
Ms. Hudson, you said it correct.
If not us,
who?
If not now,
when?
Yep. If we don't do it, nobody else is. Yep. And if we don't do it now, we'll never have another opportunity. Let's not miss any more opportunities.
Correct. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that compliment.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. Yeah, Carl is. I'm just waiting on my biscuit bones. That's another inside joke.
All right. Until next Tuesday, stay young, stay Southern, and may God bless you in your adventures. Until next time, we're going to end it with one of the faces of the SCV videos. This one, I know I showed this a lot, but Mr. Webbush is a good friend of mine, good friend of the Jacob Summerlin camp, and various others in our division.
My name is Nelson W. Winbush. I'm a member of the Jacob Sumner Camp 1516, Sons of Confederate Veterans. My reason for joining the Sons of Confederate Veterans after the NAACP declared they would destroy and remove everything Confederate in 1990, I decided that I would do all I could to make sure that people understood what the Confederacy stood for.
Till next time, have a good night.
Thank y'all.